Good evening, everybody over in Asia. Thanks very much for this opportunity to come and join you. It's fantastic to participate in this conversation. We've got some great speakers. I've been very much asked to come and join you and give a perspective from the GSMA around how we can build global success through collaborations. And I think that's one of the key topics which we're seeing around IoT at the moment, in terms of how can we really work together to limit the fragmentation which we're seeing. So my presentation is going to be talking about how that collaboration approach has solved a number of the issues to date, and then give you some indication of what the GSMA is doing to try and resolve some of the issues which we're seeing in the market at the moment. But first of all, just a little bit of an introduction into the GSMA and who we are. We are the Global Trade Association for the mobile industry. We've got over 800 mobile operator members and over 300 ecosystem members who are very much focused on working collaboratively to promote the role of the mobile industry across the world. We represent the industry in technology topics, regulatory topics, and we advocate the importance of the mobile industry in terms of the future society and economic growth. And of course, we do a little bit of industry convening. Obviously, most people will be aware of Mobile World Congress, which happens in Barcelona, and other events which we do around the world. And you know, we're getting more and more regional in terms of those events, with specific activities happening in Malaysia, in Shanghai, in China, and across other areas of the Asia Pacific region. And then what and how do we work? In terms of our board is made up of 25 members that gives us strategic direction around the projects which we need to focus on and the activities that we need to lead. And they are directly participating in all of those projects. So it gives us a very broad global reach. Everything from Singtel in Asia, across to AT&T in the US, and America Mobile in Latin America. And we do have, and we're not just focused on the big operators, we have a number of small independent operators that join our board to ensure that we've got a very true view of the needs of the industry to move forward. In a few moments, I'll spend a bit of time talking about the specific activities that we do in IoT, but just to give you a bit more of a broader view around what the GSMA does, particularly in this example, in a global regulatory and policy position, we're very much trying to create the regulatory landscape globally that supports the growth of our industry in the future. And a number of those topics will be extremely relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. So the 5G opportunities, how will AI be worked within the mobile ecosystem of the future? And of course, industrial digitalization, which is going to be extremely important from IoT. And then we focus on a number of key topics that will be relevant in the IoT space. So mobile specific taxation and data privacy. And this is one of the areas that the GSMA has identified as one of the key fragmentation challenges that we have, is getting a consistent global framework around the regulation that enables us to deploy global solutions that can work locally and in a framework of a lot of local regulation differences. So we're in a process of working on a set of policy guidelines around IoT that we can start to share and educate the global regulatory community to ensure that we can have the right kind of policies to support the industry going forward on topics like permanent roaming, on taxation, on data privacy, and how should data be shared cross-border. And give you a very practical example of one of the things which we're doing right now. Within Asia Pacific and our Asia Pacific team, we've created a regulatory pilot space where we're trying to stimulate economic activity from cross-border data flows. And obviously IoT is all about data and the value of that data and the meshing of some of that data. So we see this as an extremely important activity to enable us to understand how can those data flows evolve in the future. Beyond pure regulation, we're also focused on the spectrum topic. And at the moment, we probably see that the spectrum requirements are are met in terms of what has been allocated to date for IoT. However, in the future, the GSMA will champion those requirements as they come forward. Most recently, we've worked and brought the industry together to collaborate with our request into WRC 19, that's the World Radio Conference, for the formal allocation of the 5G spectrum that will allow us to take full advantage of the future of the 5G era and the products it will be able to support. But becoming more onto topic in terms of where has collaboration really worked and where's the GSMA being able to bring the industry together, and I'm really excited about the objectives of the Bridge Alliance, because I think it helps with that overarching ecosystem drive. Back in 2014, the concept of mobile IoT was born within the industry. We needed to find a solution that would enable us to compete with competing technologies and companies like Sigfox and LoRa. So the industry identified that it needed a low power solution that would enable it to meet the requirements going forward. And the industry came together. The industry saw that need and actually started to define a number of different specifications in LTE MTC, which became LTE-M, Enhanced GSM, and MB-IoT, or MBC IoT as it was known then, to meet those needs. And on the 14th of July 2015, the industry came together with a number of the organisations which are on this panel today and agreed that this was a way forward, and agreed to drive quite aggressively to seeing that those specifications agreed and aligned and signed off by 3GPP. And within the space of 2 to 3 years, we actually managed to see those specifications signed off in 3GPP. And it's very much, and it was one of the fastest specifications and standard that we'd ever seen deployed through 3GPP. And that was down to the industry commitment and the industry collaboration to try and make that a reality. So I think there's a real lesson there for us. If the industry comes together aggressively behind a particular topic, we can move quickly, which is not always the case when you're talking about mobile operators. Just a few more examples of where we've seen that collaboration work. In 5G, in mobile IoT, which I've already covered. We've also seen it in eSIM, which has been a bit longer, but that's a very complex topic within our industry. We've seen the emergence of identity services and something called Mobile Connect, which was driven by Mobile Connect and different by the GSMA, and there's various different flavors of that. And more specifically here in the IoT space, the realization that we need to debunk the view on security and the potential perceptions around security. And we work together in partnership with what used to be the SIM Alliance, and now it's the Trusted Connectivity Alliance, to define the IoT safe concept, which is all based around the SIM applet for secure end-to-end solutions. And the outcomes of that collaboration were quite impactful. 5G, we've now seen 79 launches across the world. 7% of the population already have access to it. And by 2025, we see that being in the region of 20%, with over 1.2 billion connections. In MB-IoT, as you can see from 2015, when this was just an idea, we've now got 131 networks launched globally. And MB-IoT is exceeding 100 million connections. But also we've seen the emergence of being able to leverage the collaborative tools that we've got in how do you, very much the vision of IoT was global coverage and interworking and interoperability, building on the success that we saw from roaming of the handset and our experience that we've seen there. And we're now starting to see the first roaming agreements developing amongst operators to enable that operator platform to be created around MB-IoT. We've seen Deutsche Telekom announce a number of partnerships in Europe with Vodafone, with Telia, and a number of other operators And I know AT&T have done a number of those. So through the GSMA WAS activity, we've been able to integrate IoT into those roaming agreements, start to define what the business processes are. But this certainly is one of the areas where I think fragmentation, well, we need to put more focus to limit the fragmentation so we can really start to ensure that we've got a seamless solution that can be deployed globally and into different markets, because that's one of the requirements of some of the customers of the IoT solutions of the future. We've seen eSIM agreed, and those of you that have been part of that will know that how difficult that's been to get the industry aligned behind a common activity. And we've now seen over 130 major industry players supporting that initiative, and we've seen the first solutions deployed by Apple and Samsung. So it's a reality. Mobile Connect, on the broader identity topic, was launched in 2014 into the industry, and we've now seen 70 operators deploy some form of identity service reaching over 4 million users. And of course, the IoT Safe piece, which I mentioned, and now is supported by over 58 partners. So that's shown a number of examples where we've come together from a technical perspective. But the GSMA realizes that the future is not just our standard ecosystem. Particularly for solutions like IoT, we need to really reach out into other vertical industries, really understand what their needs are. So we've taken a decision to take a strategic transformational shift and put more focus onto those vertical industry markets. We've had 6 of those now defined in the organization of various different levels of maturity. We have the automotive space, where we've created an advisory board of auto OEMs and tier 1 auto manufacturers, suppliers, to come together and provide guidance to us for the requirements that they have and they see in the future around the automotive space and how mobile can meet those needs. And the key project which we're looking at there, along with the standard and entertainment as a service element, is C-V2X, and how mobile and cellular can play a massive role in that going forward. We've branched out into aviation, and we're very much focusing on from a regulatory angle at the moment around how the SIM card and the capabilities of the mobile network can help to solve the challenges that they have around identification and traffic management of those drones. And we've heard major incidents around airports across the globe where drones have been causing a number of challenges, and we believe that the mobile industry has the ability to add valuable capabilities to resolve those issues. In manufacturing, we've created a manufacturing forum, which is co-chaired by a mobile operator and also by Airbus. And we're looking at what are the requirements of that manufacturing sector, where's the value going to be for the manufacturing sector and the mobile industry as we go through the transformation in Industry 4.0. And there we've got a primary focus initially on private networks and dedicated networks, and what's the right kind of deployment for manufacturers to meet their needs. And some of that's been driven by some of the developments that we've seen in Germany around the allocation of spectrum specifically to manufacturing communities. Financial services is an area which is growing and is one which is we're just initially starting on that journey and trying to understand how can we use the data within the mobile networks to make the internet safer and more secure within a banking context. But I see financial services also having elements of IoT, which we hope to take advantage of. And then we also have a focus on towers and fiber, and that's very much in a nascent stage at the moment. And obviously with everything that's going on in COVID-19 land, we're looking at how mobile can play a more significant role in health. As I mentioned, the growth of NB-IoT, which we heard started in 2015, has been huge. This map gives you a feel for just how huge that is in terms of the number of networks which that's grown by. As I mentioned, we're seeing the challenges around roaming being key. What network configurations should be set up? How do we enable billing of those services? Also, we see operators which are on different releases of the technology, and how can we ensure service and have the confidence when sales are being made to global players that their devices will work in different markets around the world. And there's challenges around device certification and the cost of that certification. So the GSMA is taking up that challenge, and we have a 5G era IoT strategy group, which is working with a number of the key manufacturers and the key operators around the world to address some of these challenges and make sure that we can build a more harmonized IoT, mobile IoT platform going forward, that the products and the services of the future can be built on. Here in Asia, we now recognize that there's over 40 mobile IoT networks launched by 29 operators. And we're seeing that operators like Telstra are moving into the 5G era and taking IoT into the solutions that can benefit from those 5G capabilities. We've also got our Angelpack IoT partnership. We have 39 mobile operators in 20 markets participating. We also have a broader community of customers for those services and suppliers of those services. And that's becoming increasingly relevant and successful. We've seen that double in size over the last 12 months. And I'm really pleased that I believe we've now managed to sign an MOU with the Bridge Alliance, so that the Bridge Alliance can now participate and represent its members within that community and hopefully address a number of those fragmentation issues which you're seeing here in Asia, but we need to be aware that those are probably not only being faced by yourselves in this region. And then, although COVID's had a massive impact on the events, activities, and the convening of the industry together to work on these types of topics, most of you, I hope, will be aware of the GSMA's activities around Shanghai, which we'll hope to see back strong in 2021. And we also have our Digital Societies event, which happens in October in Kuala Lumpur, which I believe is going to be going to an online experience. But again, we'll be back in 2021, and these will be great platforms for the industry coming together to collaborate on future activities. So in terms of just to sum up my contribution, I've tried to talk to you about collaborative activities that GSMA has been part of. We have a whole host of interesting use cases that you could take advantage of, and regulatory understanding and learnings. But for us, some of the key fragmentation issues that we can solve if we work together is very much creating that common regulatory framework, ensuring that we've got consistency across the globe around how these services can be deployed and then they operate around some of the topics that I've mentioned before. Really understanding the needs of the customer, understanding what the reason why they need these solutions, and very much trying to stop the industry building bespoke, expensive solutions by gaining a better understanding. And as I mentioned, we have those vertical groups that you are all very welcome to participate in. Focusing on the network releases and getting that consistency and harmonization across the globe, and also the same for device certification, so there are no issues with those devices connecting to other networks around the globe. And then solving some of the business processes around, first of all, understanding what coverage there is. And then when we sell that to the customer, the business processes around how do we make it work. And as I said, we're looking at trying to develop a common set of network settings that we can have, and bidding processes for our WAS group to make that as seamlessly as possible and create that truly global MIoT platform and IoT platforms that we're all looking for in the future. So my only last thing I want to say is please do get involved. You can see the GSMA website there. You can learn more about it and learn how to get in touch. Also follow us on LinkedIn, where you can hear the developments from a global perspective. And my final slide is just, I'm sure these will be distributed, but these will give you a bit more direction about where you can find out more. So David, I hope that's okay. I think that was a bit of a view from the GSMA from a global perspective around collaboration and how we can build success by working together. Hopefully that gives some inspiration to the Bridge Alliance and its members to collaborate. And as I said, now we have our MOU in place, I'm really excited about working together, not only here in Asia, but also around the rest of the world to make IoT a success.